Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AmpleLogic Fireside chat series with the industry leaders on the theme Digital Adoption in Pharmaceutical Industry. Joining us today is our esteemed guest, Paramita Sarkar. She is the Vice President, Scientific Affairs at OCuSOFT, which is an organization in Texas serving the community since 1986. Ms. Sarkar has been the scientist with more than 15 years of experience in pharmaceutical, biotech, medical devices, and consumer healthcare product development. Welcome, Paramita.
Thank you, Jasmine, for having me on the show. And I wanted to first say thank you to the AmpleLogic team that has been very supportive in the growth of OCuSOFT.
Paramita, it's often intrigued me that women often make healthcare decisions for their family. However, in the pharmaceutical industry, we have very few women at the leadership level. How has been this entire journey for you as a woman?
I would say the group of scientists, academicians, professionals I've had the honor to be associated with, some people do tend to keep a low profile. But there are very influential women in the pharma industry. It's just the mode of operation does seem to be different. I did receive a very interesting feedback from my immediate supervisor, and he did mention that women do process information, take their time, and will really weigh a lot of variables in a conversation before they'll put their viewpoint forward. So it is something that every individual, not just women, every individual needs to grow into. And typically people from a science background, that is not the focus of their development. It's really finding out and solving problems and providing service. So that is a portion of your career and personal and professional growth that you actively have to commit to yourself to say, I am going to put myself out there and to say I'm ready for leadership when the opportunities arise.
How beautifully said, Paramita, and I'm glad that your journey had been so inspiring, and I'm sure all women out there who are a part of the pharmaceutical industry, they would be taking a lot of motivation out of you from this. Now, I would be interested to know that OCuSOFT has been expanding its organization's capabilities by bringing in the cutting-edge technology through product and process innovations, and with the recent implementations of the quality management systems and the database management systems, I'm inquisitive to know, when did your organization felt the need to shift towards automation?
So just a little bit of history. OCuSOFT has been primarily a distribution and wholesale company and marketing company. It had intellectual property around a very niche area, which is the eyelid hygiene market, in which OCuSOFT was the primary innovation driver, and really a health sector that had not been leveraged up to that point. So initially, of course, OCuSOFT did not have capabilities of manufacturing product on its own. It developed its market space and its clientele and reputation, and it got to the point where there was a realization that a lot of the manufacturing quality control measures need to be brought in-house to have a better control on supply chain and provide better quality to doctors, healthcare professionals, and patients out there in the market. That's when I joined OCuSOFT as Vice President of Scientific Affairs. And since then, our capabilities have grown exponentially, I would say. So one of the first decisions that I took on joining OCuSOFT, based on my experience with startup companies as well as with multinational companies like Pfizer and Bausch & Lomb, is that before it gets too late and we get buried in paperwork with all the different avenues we're pursuing, it would make sense to have a ground up development approach in terms of documentation and management, quality management system. So we did have a very effective quality department, but it was very, very lean. And the rate at which we were adding on to the capabilities of OCuSOFT, which included analytical chemistry, R&D, and manufacturing as part of subsidiary business units, we needed something that could string all these units together without going overboard on front-loading our personnel hires. And that's where an electronic management system made more sense.
Absolutely, Paramita, so rightly said. In fact, database management systems, they are, I believe, essential for business because they offer an efficient way of handling the large amounts and multiple types of data. So what difference these installations made to your company's way of working?
So again, before I was able to solidify and ask resources for the AmpleLogic project, we had looked at several file management systems, which didn't have integrated workflows, didn't have qualification validations as part of their implementation processes, and frankly, were not well versed in the needs for the pharmaceutical industry and healthcare industry. And the ones that did provide a holistic integrated approach of document management and quality management were frankly out of reach for a small company like ours. And they already had their own systems in place. A lot of customization was not going to be possible. And so in terms of the automation, we were able to customize based on the type of information that we handled, the volume of information that we handled, and the level of expertise that was present in the company at that time, but could be upgraded to match growing personnel and expertise level at the company.
I'm glad you said this, Paramita, as many organizations, they still remain at the mercy of paper-based systems despite the available technologies to reduce the paper usage. I would be really interested to know OCuSoft's journey towards automation. Was it easy for the employees to go through this phase of transformation?
I think whenever you're implementing something new that requires that basic mindset shift on we're no longer going to be relying on paper as the main source of information trail, because it is convenient to be able to go into a file cabinet and dig through things, but that only works when there is a small volume of information to be handled. As soon as that information starts growing, it becomes very difficult to track and trace and keep a control of. People are making copies willy-nilly, they're distributing it. You don't know who has the last updated version of it. So even though there was quite a bit of education and hand-holding that was needed to get the concepts across, it has been embraced. We are still, we just finished the validation part of the DMS over here. So I would say we're still in the training phases where people are getting the hang of using the system. But it is fairly easy. So once they're there and using it on a regular basis, I don't foresee any problems. And the fact that we now have it in place makes it much more easier for us as we get new personnel in to have this as part of our onboarding training requirements. And rather than, people being already married to a particular system and having to transition over, that pain isn't there. So people are, into it from the beginning, and we have a system in place that people can dive right into.
Right. I'm glad that this change was accepted so well in the organization by the employees, especially. Indeed, the paper based systems are a cost burden, they impede the workflows, and in fact, pose serious security risks as well, isn't it? Right. Moving to my next question, Paramita. We see that AmpleLogic has been associated with OCuSOFT for a while now. I would be delighted to hear how has this experience with AmpleLogic been?
Yes, and definitely something to write a story about. We're starting again. The point that I want to get across is I joined the organization with the responsibility to build the organization from a primary distribution and marketing sales focused organization into an R&D and manufacturing organization. So I had nothing to work with, and AmpleLogic understood that. Whenever they said, "Okay, so who's going to be on the team for implementation and qualification?" I'd be like, "Me," and who's going to help us in the validation part of it? And it's like, me and the quality director. So there's really about 3 or 4 people with me being there most of the way. But AmpleLogic, they were so understanding with the limitations that our small company had. And the fact that we were growing into an organization rather than being an established R&D and manufacturing organization. I seriously doubt that within the budget constraints that we had, I would have been able to find any other partner that would have been as flexible and accommodating and customizable as the AmpleLogic solution.
Thank you, Paramita. Appreciate the kind words for AmpleLogic. And yes, we truly believe in simplifying the business operations with our innovative solutions. Now, moving to the last question. What would be your message to the organizations who are indecisive about moving towards automation?
Sure. The biggest thing that's going to come to mind is investment. And really understanding what digital automation provides in terms of short-term, mid-term, and long-term benefits, return on investment for the company. I think I was very fortunate to have a management team that, even though they hadn't worked in the GMP space of actually handling product manufacture and development and regulatory filings, they were willing to listen. And when I made the case for investing upfront in a digital platform, I was able to get that support. So having the upper management support for implementing such a system in times of finances, resources, and time is very important. It is one of those things that you will end up needing at some point in time. Right. So the sooner that you can get it implemented in your organization, the easier it's going to be to stick to and provide that digital framework that really is an expectation of regulatory agencies these days. And not having that established for onboarding in new hires and then trying to make a transition from paper to electronic, it is a very resource and time consuming endeavor. So it's either you're putting in the financial resources up front, or you're going to be putting it in later. So that is a business decision that organizations need to make. I personally feel, in terms of the number of people that will be needed to manage a paper trail versus an electronically implemented paper documentation system, the return on investment is pretty clear. If you do it over, 5-10 years and beyond the life of a company. It will be dictated by what the company sees as the future, whether it's going to stay with 5 people or have the potential to go into 500 or 1,000 or more. That's the thing.
Right. Thank you, Paramita, for the great insights. It was quite an informative session. And for AmpleLogic, it's been an enriching journey to be serving OCuSOFT with our proactive quality and management solutions. And a special thanks to our viewers for watching us. We shall be coming out soon with another great session with another great thought leader. Till then, take care.